So it looks a whole lot sexier than before. And with 656 bhp from a heavily reworked twin-turbo V8, it also goes a heck of a lot harder too. Indeed, Aston Martin claims that no less than 80% of the latest Vantage is brand spanking new, from its EDIF to its dampers, right the way through to its comprehensively redesigned new cabin. And as such, they say it's a car that's been engineered specifically for real drivers. So, are they telling the truth?
So it does feel right from the moment you climb inside the new Vantage. The driving position has always been really nice in this car because it's that kind of traditional engine up there at the front and rear drive, and your bum's really nice and low to the floor. All those bits have always been very good on Vantage, but I think if anything they've made everything that little bit better. It's just such a lovely driving position without the bonnet feeling like it's too long, like it's too far away from you. You can also see these beautiful, big, hairy wheel arches in both mirrors. And it's a very nice place in which to find yourself. So one of the directions that they've changed is the placement of the paddles, the gear shift paddles. They've always been static. Now they put them on the wheel. They're still huge paddles and they feel nice in the hand, and that is purely, Aston Martin says, because the people who are making their cars now, the people who are creating them, engineering them, designing them, testing them, spending the most time in them, prefer the paddles to be on the back of the steering wheel rather than attached to the steering column. So you climb in and you think, yeah, great driving position, great cabin, great view out of the mirrors, nice noise, really nice noise. And then you put your foot down and you think, wow, okay, this thing is quick, properly quick. They say it weighs 15 kilograms more than the previous Vantage, but it has a stack more horsepower and a stack more torque, and yet the gearing is no longer. So we're talking about a lot more straight line thump than the previous Vantage. And you can feel that straight away in any mode. There are 5 modes: wet, sport, sport plus, track and individual. I actually think Sport Plus is the nicest mode. On this road, it's a nice smooth road. I suspect back in the UK you'd probably want to put it back into Sport so that the ride is a little more comfortable. But overall you're building this nice picture of the new Vantage. You've still got that classic front engine GT car dart in profile, and nothing's changed from that point of view. But what has changed are a lot of the details, specifically the headlights. The headlights on this thing are just miles better than the older headlights, which were far too small, I think. Big wheel arches. It just looks wider because it is wider, and it looks naughtier because it is naughtier. It sounds quicker because it is a lot quicker.
The twin-turbo V8 has been thoroughly reworked by Aston Martin to produce a lot more power and torque than before, with new heads, different turbos, and a much greater emphasis on performance at the top end to deliberately give it a more aggressive personality. Yet, at the lower end, it still produces a whopping 589 pounds-feet of torque at just 2,000 RPM. Which is enough, combined with that power, to fire it to 62 miles an hour in a claimed 3.5 seconds and to a top speed of 202 miles an hour. There's also a load of new bracing at the rear that's increased torsional stiffness at the back by 300%, says Aston, while the Bilston dampers have been tuned to offer as much ride comfort as possible within a brief that's very much focused on driver engagement. The new Vantage is aimed squarely at people who like their driving, in other words, and know what they're doing, says Aston, without in any way being an all-out hot rod at the same time.
Steering just feels expensive and accurate and almost what you'd want from your perfect GT sports car. Almost. Not quite, almost. The throttle response is very sharp, very good. You don't have that kind of fluff that Aston V8s of old used to have a little bit. You put a different amount of input into the throttle and you get a quantifiably different response. Not just from the engine, but at the rear axle. So we've got good steering, we've got a good gearbox, we've got excellent brakes, we've got a lot of the right sort of noises. Not digitised pops and bangs, genuine, natural pops and bangs. And we've got immense road holding. Pilot Sport 5s, which are bespoke to the Vantage. They're a different compound compared with the ones you get on the DB12. And it's all about giving the front end more bite, more precision, more feel. And it does have a really good front end on it, this car. The traction control came in just a tiny bit through that corner there, but it wasn't too intrusive. There's not much sway or body roll either. The roll is kept nicely in control, and yet it feels like it rides quite well, this thing. So what's the problem? Why am I not absolutely erupting into overtures of joy about the new Vantage? Well, it just maybe feels a little bit too perfect for its own good. And that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm fully aware of that. You criticise a car, the previous car, for having too many rough edges. So they take away all the rough edges, and then an idiot like me sits here and goes, I wish it had a few more rough edges so that it felt a bit more kind of emotional and touchy-feely. That is possibly the underlying impression I'm getting with the new Vantage. The steering is one of the things that it's very accurate and very precise, but I'm not getting much feel back through this rear. But it's also the feel from the rear axle. There's great traction, really, really astonishing traction considering how much boat there is. But when you get this car loaded up in a fast corner, like this one up here, and then give it some throttle, like that, the connection between my brain and the rear tyres is there, but it's not absolutely just how you want it. There's a bit of fog between your right foot and what happens at the rear axle, which is leaving me slightly cold. It's weird, isn't it? Aston Martin says the new Vantage is a car for real drivers. Well, on the road, although it's very, very good, it is leaving me just short of ecstasy. So maybe all that will change when we go to a track. And there is only, as they say, one way to find out. So to the track we go.
The Intercooler is so much more than just a YouTube channel. We have a popular weekly podcast available wherever you get your podcasts and a multi-award-winning ad-free online car magazine on website and app. We publish the best stories daily by what we think is the finest team of automotive writers working anywhere in the world today. To see why the Intercooler has won a bunch of awards, click the link on screen or in the description to start your 30-day free trial.
So that's the road. And I have to admit, I was just slightly confused about what I thought about the new Vantage on the road. Because, as I said, in every single way, individually, it's miles better than the previous Vantage. And I got to admit, I wasn't therefore expecting it to be that good on a track. But I have done a few laps of this track at Monteblanco in Spain, admittedly with everything switched off. And, well, cut straight to it. The good news is it is absolutely blinding on a track if you want to do the hooligan stuff with it. Like that. It's just, you can do these monster great slides in it to your heart's content. And it just has this lovely, fluid, balanced, fundamentally really well sorted feel to the chassis and to the steering and to everything else it does. And you can do, you can do these massive, great big 4th gear, even 5th gear slides, which last forever. But you would not be able to do that unless the fundamentals of this car were absolutely bob on in the first place. And I have to admit, they are. And as a result, my opinion of the new Vantage has shifted in a really big way, and in a really positive way, having done quite a few laps of it on the track now. Because it isn't too clinical, it isn't in any way boring or anything like that, or too efficient. This thing is just A, really quick, B, really well sorted, C, dead good fun. The gearbox isn't absolutely as snappy as I want it to be, but it's, for a non-dual clutch, it's about as good as it gets, to be honest. Lovely steering, really good feel through the brakes. Really, really good feel through the brakes. But it's what happens when you turn into a corner that's really impressive. They do have this really nice traction control system now. You can dial it up or down. I think there are 9 positions. I've just been driving with everything off. Let's dial it back down a bit to position 4. There's just a little whiff of understeer, maybe, on the way in, but that's just almost just as a safety net. And then the car settles really nicely, and you can, there's loads of feel from the rear axle when you get it loaded into a corner, like there. And then you can just plant the throttle. And the traction is phenomenal. Rear wheel drive and 600 and whatever it is, 50 odd horsepower, and that much traction. I'll turn the traction control up a bit, and that's a corner that it was going really sideways out of, with everything switched off. That's now on traction control 4 setting. And it just trimmed the throttle back slightly, to the point where it wouldn't actually allow me to go sideways, but it wasn't killing the momentum on the way out of the corner. I was just keeping the car just at the point of it going sideways, but without the kind of electronics going, oh, you're about to have an accident, and then taking the throttle away completely. It was just trimming it. So good. That's a really good system, a really, really good traction control system. It works a treat.
For the record, the Vantage weighs 1,745 kilograms with fluids and a driver on board, which makes it 15 kilograms heavier than before. Considering just how much extra tech it contains, that is no mean achievement. The 21-inch wheels are forged, not cast, so they're lighter and stiffer than before, and a whole heap more expensive to replace. The tyres are bespoke Michelin Pilot Sport 5S's, and this car comes with the optional carbon ceramic brakes at about 7 grand, and Aston's new competition seat, both of which are well worth going for if you're going to drive your Vantage on a track. And believe me, you should, because unless you do, you'll never fully appreciate or unlock the genius that lies at the centre of this great car.
Okay, couple of tiny niggles. The font on the instruments I find too small. I'm getting a bit old now. My eyesight is not what it was, but the font size that tells you what gear you're in is about that big, and I wish it was a bit bigger. I wish I knew more obviously what gear I was in. Other than that, I'm now just completely rethinking what I thought of this car on the road. Because now that I know that it can do this on the track, it makes you think, wow, on the road it's just really refined, really quick, really comfortable, really precise. It's really good. I'd rather have this car than a 911 Turbo. There you go. The end.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you go to the Intercooler website or app if you want to read a full first drive piece on the new Vantage and all sorts of other great stories about cars. And so see you next time.